Hi, Sandra. We're ready.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure how we were supposed to begin here. So, hi, everybody. I'm Sandra Ingerman, and I am in Santa Fe, New Mexico right now. So, I'm in a very different landscape than you are. And I have wonderful memories of being at Findhorn conferences and walking the land and feeling the softness of the land and the lushness and the cool temperatures. And so I'm talking to you from the high desert where we've been in drought and dry, and but we've all just moved into the fall equinox. And in shamanism, uh, it's really important to understand that people don't mark time in the same way that we do in the modern world. We mark time in such a linear fashion, and then we get caught up with our spiritual practices in oftentimes having unrealistic expectations about the outcomes because we're here for such a short period of time. Where in shamanic cultures, there was a bigger perspective about time and marking time through the seasons and the phases of the moon and marking time by the changes of the light. And so it gave a broader perspective about our time here on Earth, which is pretty limited. And so from a shamanic point of view, it's really important for us to remember what our passion and what our destiny is, because in shamanic cultures, it's taught from birth that we came here to live out a passion that we have and to contribute a strength to our communities, to help our community thrive. And whether we're an introvert or an extrovert, it doesn't matter. We were all born with these gifts and strengths to give to our community. And so in the times that we're living in right now, where there's a real call to strengthen our communities again, because we really need to strengthen our communities with all that's going on in the world. It really is a time for us to find those spiritual practices that help to call us within to those deeper places in our inner landscape where we can hear our soul talking to us and saying what we have to share at this particular point of time on the planet, and what we really want to do with our time here and what we want to contribute to our communities. And so I just wanted to plant that little seed as we do a couple of experiential exercises today to give you a bit of a flavor of shamanism. And I should back up a bit and talk a little bit about the practice of shamanism itself. Shamanism dates back. It's a universal practice. And, excuse me. It's a universal practice. And how I really see it is that tens of thousands of years ago, because the practice of shamanism itself dates back over 100,000 years. So tens of thousands of years ago, these helping, compassionate spirits, intermediaries to the divine forces of the universe, volunteered themselves to help humankind to learn how to survive. And so for tens of thousands of years, people all over the world, your ancestors, all of our ancestors practiced shamanism. It's the most ancient practice that's on the planet. And these helping compassionate spirits have been guiding our ancestors and giving healing help and helping them to move into the unseen realms to bring through healing energies that they could flood into the collective and into the community. And so there's always been this connection to these divine intermediary forces that we call helping compassionate spirits. And that's a real core of the practice of shamanism, is this communication with the unseen realms. And that each and every one of us has the birthright to communicate with helping compassionate spirits. And so shamanism itself is called a path of direct revelation. And the word shaman comes from the Tungus tribe in Siberia. And there are many different definitions of it: one who sees in the dark, healer, one who knows. And a shaman is a man or woman who performs ceremonies. Ceremonies were performed to welcome a new baby into the world, and ceremonies were performed for rite of passages and sacred marriages, and to mourn the death of a loved one, and to call in blessings for the community and to ask for healing for the community. Ceremonies were done throughout time to create change and to mark the changes of time. And one of the classic ceremonies that shamans have always performed is what's called a shamanic journey. And in a shamanic journey, the shaman goes into an altered state of consciousness, typically using some form of percussion, drumming, rattling. In Australia, they use click sticks and the didgeridoo. In some parts of Asia, bells and bowls are used. In Lapland, where the Sami people have been living, the drum was made illegal. The drum hasn't been legal until 1989 because of the Christian influence. And so they started to do this monotonous chanting that kind of acted as percussion called yoiking, Joiking. And so some form of percussion was typically used to help the shaman, or today what we call the shamanic practitioner, to step out of their humanness, to step away from our ego, our ordinary thoughts, where we can move into a place of spirit, where our spirit can enter, kind of cross a veil between the seen and unseen realms into what in some people call in different cultures non-ordinary reality. The Celtic people called it the other world. In Australia, it was called the dream time. I talk about the unseen worlds, but where we can open up that veil through going into an altered state of consciousness and to be able to have direct contact with helping compassionate spirits. And that's called a shamanic journey. And that's probably one of the most classic core practices that you'll see around the world of working with shamanism. And the journey has been used to access spiritual help and to get healing. And so you can journey to a helping spirit to ask for help. In classic shamanism, there was a shaman for the community, And now with the resurgence of shamanism, it's really wild what's happening in our modern day world and the resurgence of shamanism. We have what we call shamanic practitioners everywhere entering into shamanic journeys and getting guidance on how to improve the quality of their lives and how to bring this work into schools and into hospitals and working in politics. And so, it's really amazing to see how people in the modern world have embraced this working with the helping compassionate spirits to teach others about the power that we all have to have direct revelation and the help and support that we have right now, because the helping spirits are really here where we're in the game of life. We're right in the game of life. The helping spirits have a different viewpoint of our lives, and they can give us a tremendous amount of information that can guide us. And so I'd like to give us a couple of experiences of shamanism to just kind of give you a taste of how the practice works. And when you look at different shamanic cultures around the world, you see different art that's depicted and different oral stories that's told. And no matter where you go, no matter what culture you go to, you hear about different worlds being talked about, that there's the middle world where we are here, and we call that Earth School. And then there's the transcendent realities that the shaman journeys to, that's connected by the world tree. There's the upper world and there's the lower world. And in different cultures, it's believed that there are different levels down in the lower world and different layers up in the upper world. And in these worlds, in these transcendent realities, there are these helping compassionate spirits that I've been talking about. And they take the form of animals, or what we call guardian spirits, because instead of having a power animal such as a bear or a hawk, somebody might have bee as a power animal, or oak tree as a guardian spirit. And then there's the hidden folk, there's the elves and the fairies and all those nature beings that Findhorn has been so famous for working with, and shamans all over the world, every single culture around the world works with the hidden folk. And then there were what we call teachers in human form, and they're mystical figures, and in shamanic cultures, they were the ancestral figures of the culture. There's just this whole range of teachers that can come through. People get Jesus and Mary and Buddha or Merlin and ancestors, great-great-grandmothers, and teachers and power animals and guardians come in all kinds of surprising forms. And what's kept me so interested in the practice of shamanism for the last 35 years is the surprise element, that you really don't get what you expect to get. And so shamanism is a practice where we perform a ceremony that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and typically make contact through a journey with these helping compassionate spirits to guide us in our ceremonial work of how we can work spiritually, and also to get advice about our own lives. And so I thought that we would do a shamanic journey, but instead of going into the lower world or the upper world, we're going to do a journey in the middle world to a beautiful place in nature, some place where you really love to visit. It could be a place at Findhorn that you've connected with, but it could be a place in your travels that you really love. And you're going to be hearing drumming when we're ready. I'm going to be doing a little invocation to get us started. And what the drumming does, and science has been investigating why shamans around the world have been using percussion for thousands of years. And what they found is when we listen to a monotonous drum beat, our brain waves change. And so when we're in our thinking state, our brain waves are what are called in a beta state. And when we listen to drumming, our brain waves start to slow down. And first they slow into what we call an alpha state of consciousness. And then they slow down into what we call a theta state. And it's in that theta state where your soul has access to open up that veil between the ordinary thinking worlds and to enter into these unlimited territories of helping compassionate spirits and beautiful landscapes where you can go for healing and for guidance. And so we're going to kind of keep it simple, and we're going to go into a beautiful place in nature and ask to meet a helping spirit who is volunteering themselves to you at this particular point in time. And ask them for some advice. Ask them if you have a question that's important to you, or if you feel a need for some healing right now, that helping spirit can come to you and actually perform a healing on you in this journey. And that's a very powerful way to work. Now, it's important to understand that people receive spiritual guidance with using all of your senses. So shamanic journeying was actually always very active. Shamans drummed and rattled and sang and danced throughout their journey and met with their helping spirits and talked to them. And we tend to practice it in a passive way today, although I try to get my students up moving and dancing during their journeys, and I realize this is not the right venue for that to happen. But how shamanism has been passed down in our modern day world is that everything is about what you see in the journey. We live in such a visual culture. And shamans don't necessarily always see in a clairvoyant way. So like, for example, I don't really see that much in my journeys. I'm more clairaudient. I get messages, or I feel the information in my body. I'm more clairsentient. I actually get a feeling in my bones. I know this information is true. And so it's really important when you journey, because I've taught so many tens of thousands of people how to journey. And the biggest mistake that I see is everybody wants to see a movie in their journey, and that's just more TV. You really want to open up all your senses to what are you smelling and what are you hearing in the journey and what are you feeling, not just what are you seeing. And so it's really important that you don't judge your journey by if you're seeing something in a visual way. So the drumming that you're going to hear will put you into an altered state, and it will help you to leave your ordinary mind behind, where you'll enter into this beautiful place in nature, a garden, where you're going to call in a helping spirit. And again, it might be an animal or a guardian spirit like an insect or one of the hidden folk or a plant or a tree, or it could be a teacher in human form that comes to you. You just want to really hold the intention that you're asking to meet a helping and compassionate spirit. That's a really important part of the practice, is asking to meet with a helping and compassionate spirit. And then as you set that intention and you're in this beautiful place in nature, just notice what happens. And when you meet this helping being, start to create a relationship with them and tell them what's in your heart, and ask them questions like, what is my passion, and what is my destiny, and what is the strength that I have to contribute to my community right now? Or ask for some healing help, or ask a question that's really important to you. So this journey is going to be about 12 minutes. We're using a recording because it will sound better to you than me doing the live drumming over the computer. And what will happen is you're going to start by hearing a whistle and some rattling. And, you know, you just want to move from a mental state into a heart state. And I'll do a little invocation before we start that. And then with your intention, you just want to experience yourself opening up a veil between the worlds and entering into this beautiful place in nature and calling in a helping spirit. And at the end, you're going to hear a change in the drumming. And the change is going to sound, I'm going to use my rattles just to demonstrate. The change is going to sound like this. And when you hear that change, it's time to say thank you and goodbye. And then there'll be a really fast drumming, and retrace your steps. Think about you've taken a walk in nature and you have to turn all the way around and come back. Some people crash land during the return, and that's not shamanism, because in the practice of shamanism, we walk a path out into the unseen realms and we turn back around and we come fully back, grounded, centered, and strong in our body. So it's very important to return fully at the end of the journey, and you'll hear the return beat that will bring you back. So let's just take a moment to get ready for the journey, and let's just take a few deep breaths and close your eyes. And I started by talking about connecting to the spirit of the land and the beauty of the land, and how we've moved into the time of fall, just celebrating a change. And that means that there's a change in the landscape around us. And there's also a change in our own inner landscape. And so with our breath, feeling our heartbeat, we want to connect to ourselves. And then allow your heartbeat to connect to the land where you are right now, to Findhorn, to the support of the land. This land is so ancient, so old. Let your heartbeat connect to the ancientness. The wind was the very first being that lived on this earth. And the wind is here with you now on the land. It's caressing you. It's billions of years old. It's supporting you right now in your life and in your work. and the beauty of the waters that connect us to the primal seas, the beginning of life. The waters, so ancient, holding us in love as we do our earth walk. And we're warmed on every level by the power of the sun and the moon and the constellations. Their light is such an inspiration to all of us. And their ancientness reminds us that time is eternity and we're here for such a short period of time. We feel the support of our ancestors going back tens of thousands of years, singing for us in love and in support, and hoping that we're healthy and happy and want to see us make our greatest dreams so. So it's important for us to give gratitude for all the spiritual support that we do have, and to connect our heartbeat to the heartbeat of those forces before we begin our journey, so that we approach our journey feeling that there's a wealth of spirits and there's a wealth of support for us if we're just willing to open our imagination and open our hearts. And so once the drumming begins, again, just allow yourself to experience walking between the veils and meeting a helping, or maybe more helping, compassionate spirits who have a message or healing for you. The drumming will begin now. Welcome back, everybody. Take a few deep breaths. Just take a moment to reflect on your journey. And I'd like to give people a little bit of time to share their experience, what it was like to do this journey, or to ask a question at this point before we move on. Let's see, it's kind of dark over there, so I can't see that well. Is there anybody out there? Or
back with us? Very glad. Thank you for the journey. It was a beautiful journey. I've done this type of journeys before, and I found them very, very inspiring. And I've been asking for healing on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I met with Pan, who is one of my favorite guides, in a forest with a waterfalls nearby, and I asked him to help me with that. He was my guide, and that was very beautiful. I was really carried by the drums, which I love very much, and I felt very much healed. And then I felt I wanted to know how I could help be of service to Mother Earth, and I got this answer as well. So I feel very good. I'm so glad I came, and I had a wonderful journey. Thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you for sharing. What else happened out there? Anything?
Hi, Sandra. I'd like to share my journey with you. My spirit guide was an otter, and he came from the river close to our home, and I asked what my purpose is, and I got a very clear answer about being presence of love in the work that I do, and that I'm doing the work that I should be doing. So that was really reaffirming, and then we had a really joyful play. I was on the back of the otter, and we went swimming down the river, and resting on rocks, and swimming under the road bridge, and just looking up at the sky above, and it was beautiful journey. So thank you for guiding us. It's my first time to do such a journey, so thank you.
Wow, beautiful. Very, very beautiful for first time. Great.
Hi, Sandra. My name is Lynx, and I had a very incredible, it felt very old type of chiropractic healing as I asked for a healing, and the guides helped me. And it was interesting because instead of clicking with their usual mannerisms today, it was as if I was bouncing from side to side like the figure 8 around my chakras, and especially in the area of my digestion, which has been a problem. However, I came back, had a big burp, and I feel great. So thank you very much.
Thank your helping spirit very much.
Hi, Sandra. My name is Greg. I had a wonderful journey also. The spirit that met me was Seagull. I was by a beach and met Seagull. I have more of a question, though. I was presented with lots of images and possibly symbolisms, and they don't necessarily sync with a belief system. So how would you have any suggestions of how to digest the symbols and the actions? I know I'm being vague. I could be more specific, but I don't know if I need to be. So that's the question.
No, yeah, you don't need to be. I'm one of those people in my journeys. I'm very clairaudient, and my power animal or guardian spirit speaks to me and gives me very clear messages. But some people are more clairvoyant in their journeys, and some people get scenery that is very clear to them, and it's very clear how to interpret it. But like in your case, what you're sharing, many people see symbols and then don't know what to do with the symbols. And so here are my suggestions around that. One is you can always go back into a journey. One journey leads into another oftentimes. And you can ask, what was the interpretation of that symbol? I don't understand it. That's one way to work. Another way to work is to do some journaling and write the question down. What could this symbol possibly mean in reference to my question? So you're bringing the symbol back to your question, and through doing some journaling, you're trying to look at what's the connection between the symbol and the question. And then another way of working with that is doing what we call in shamanism, and Findhorn is a perfect place to do this, a practice that we call deep listening. And deep listening is a practice of going out into nature and letting nature speak to you. And nature speaks to you through giving information, through looking out over the earth, or being with the water, or letting your mind fly with the wind, or absorbing the power of the sun. And when we really connect with nature and we communicate with nature, we feel more connected to ourselves, and all of a sudden a deeper knowing about what the symbol meant in that particular journey starts to come to us just by allowing ourselves to be quiet, be connected with ancient natural forces that we live with. A lot of people get such deep, amazing knowing of how to interpret the symbols that come up in their journeys by just spending some time in nature, again, doing what we call the practice of deep listening.
Hi, Sandra. My name's Marietta, and I do some journeying myself at home, and I get a bit stuck with, if I have a question, of if I need to go to upper world with that question or lower world. And I was wondering if you could explain the difference between the two and give some examples of where different questions might go. Thanks.
Well, you know, the wonderful thing about shamanism is everybody's so different in their work. And so shamanism is a life path, and I had this amazing opportunity to be with a shaman who was in his 90s from Tuva, from Siberia. And grandfather started practicing shamanism when he was 17 years old. And when I met him, he was in his 90s, and he still called himself a baby in the work. And so, you know, important to give ourselves kind of a frame of reference of the span of our work. And over time, as you journey, you start to notice that you know, instead of just seeing journey as a singular event, that it's a practice over time, you start to notice that you get particular information in the lower world and you get particular types of information in the upper world. And so, like with a question on guidance, you can go to the lower world and the upper world and ask for two different opinions. And the spirits don't have bodies, they don't have egos, so they're not insulted that you're asking another spirit for a second opinion. And you start to notice where you get the best information over time. So like in my practice, in my personal practice, my guardian spirit in the lower world is who works with me in partnership to perform all my healings with me. So when a client comes to see me and a person needs a power animal retrieval, a soul retrieval, a shamanic extraction, a depossession, I work with my guardian spirit. But when I'm writing or when I'm teaching in the world, the Egyptian goddess Isis is my teacher in the upper world, and she has great compassion for my clients. She's the mother. She has great compassion for my clients, but she doesn't engage with me in my healing work. She's just there to help me with my writing and my teaching and how to be in more service to the planet. But you have to give journeying a chance of asking questions to the spirits and seeing where you get the best information from. And then you start to see how you can work with the spirits in a journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah, yeah. And some people that I train, their teachers do all their healing work and their power animals are only there for them personally. So it's really different, practitioner to practitioner. Okay, so we'll move on at this point. And, you know, I just really want to encourage you, if you feel any desire or you felt something in this last journey, that this is something that you can pursue and keep up over time. Again, journeying is a life practice. But shamans are also people who constantly communicate with nature. And you have to understand and imagine that in shamanic cultures, people didn't have technology, they didn't have ways for gathering food in easy ways or storing food in easy ways. And so it was really their connection with the plant world and the animal world of learning how to gather food and how to work in partnership of different animals sacrificing themselves for the community, and a spiritual partnership forming because of that in the community among the animal kingdom. And so much of shamanism is really based on actually being out in nature, not always journeying to helping spirits, but really being out in nature and touching the souls of the different beings that we share this great earth with, and asking questions like, how can we lighten our footstep on this earth? And how can we live more in harmony on the planet right now? How can we be more in service by doing what we call deep listening? And being out in nature is a very, very potent part of shamanism. And then as you're out in nature in the sacred way of wanting to communicate with the spirit that lives in all things, what we call the web of life, and feel your connection with that web of life, you know, as you're out there, certain signs come, what we call omens come to you. And you know, you're holding a question, and as you're walking, the clouds all of a sudden part and the sun comes out, and all of a sudden you realize that what you're thinking about at that moment is right. Or the wind is really still, the air is really still, and all of a sudden you're thinking about something, the wind comes in and caresses you, and you feel like, okay, you just got a sign, or a butterfly lands on your finger. You know, being out in nature is probably the most important shamanic practice that there is. And it connects us back with the flow of life. And once we're connected with the flow of life, health comes on all levels to us, because it's when we try to separate ourselves from nature's flow, as we try to do in the modern world, that we're seeing such a host of emotional and physical illnesses right now. And so I really want to support you after we do our work in spending time on the land and watching for omens and starting to communicate with the spirit that lives in all things on the land, and notice what kind of guidance and how you feel a deeper connection inside yourself and with the actual land that you're on. In shamanism, as we learn how to communicate with the spirit of the land in a deeper and more balanced way, that's where we're going to see the healing of the planet come back. And that means that we really need to be in connection and relationship with all the land that we travel to. So, you know, making sure that you really tap into the spirit of Findhorn and what it has to share with you and what it's about is, you know, a very core practice of shamanism itself. What I thought I'd do now is lead us in a guided ceremony. So this is a bit of a guided journey where I'll be leading you all the way. And I'll start with doing some whistling and singing and calling in some helping spirits, invoking some helping spirits. I'll be singing a bit of my power song, a song that helps me to step away from my egoic self and start to bring spirit through, which is what we do in shamanic practice. We step away from our ordinary self and we allow spirit to enter us and to guide us, and our own divine spirit to really shine through us, helping us in our own life and flooding the collective with much needed light right now. And we're going to move out of the way, listening to my song, and start to imagine opening up a veil and walking out a landscape in nature. And I'll be guiding you and speaking about where we are. And we're going to move together to a meadow. And we're going to move into the time of dusk, where the night sky is starting to come up, that real magical time in nature when the light is changing. And the sun is starting to go down and the moon is starting to come up and the stars are starting to shine a little bit right above us. And as we come into this meadow, we're going to see a bonfire burning, and there are going to be guardian spirits waiting to greet us. And they're going to cleanse us, possibly by blowing some smoke or incense over us to clear our field, or running a feather over our field, or sprinkling a little water on our third eye or crown, anointing us as we enter into sacred space, or whispering a message into our ear, or brushing our hair in some way. This is all to give us a moment to unburden ourselves so that we're all stepping into a pristine, sacred collective together. We're not dragging all of our ordinary thoughts along with us, or our past, or what we need to let go of, but we're moving into sacred space and pure spirit together. And then once we're around the fire, I'm going to guide us in doing a healing ceremony for ourselves and for the planet, where there are going to be objects to make a talisman. And again, I'll be guiding you through this. And in the talisman, you're going to be able to blow in a dream that you have for yourself, of maybe manifesting that passion you saw in that very first journey, or a dream of what you're hoping for all of life on the planet. And we'll be giving our talismans to the fire, asking the fire through the smoke to take our prayers up to the creative forces of the universe, to work with the divine within us, connecting to the divine without, to make our dreams so. That's the nature of ceremony, is we step aside from our humanness, make a connection to the divine within and the divine without, and through that line of connection, we can spin through the threads of transformation, healing, and change. So what all you have to do is just follow me along in this journey, but that's the big picture of what we're doing. This is a blessing journey for ourselves and for the planet and for all of life right now. So see yourself, experience yourself standing up and opening up a veil between the worlds, between the seen and the unseen, stepping out on a beautiful path in nature, opening up all your senses and taking in the beauty, looking at the colors, the vibrant colors of the life forms around you, taking a deep breath and taking in the beauty of the fragrances, listening to the sounds of nature, feeling your feet walking on the earth, feeling the texture and your deep connection, tasting the air. We walk on this path in awe and wonder of the beauty of nature. Continuing to walk this path, we start to come to a clearing, an entrance to a meadow, where we see in the distance this beautiful bonfire burning. And as we continue to walk and approach the fire, there's a guardian spirit, a loving, compassionate guardian spirit waiting to meet us, to cleanse us, to help us unburden ourselves of what we need to let go of at this point in time, so that we can step into clear, sacred space. Let this guardian spirit cleanse you and welcome you. And as you are cleansed, start to walk towards the bonfire. Listen to the sound of the crackling of the fire as the wood is burning. Smell the smell of the smoke. Look into the beauty of fire. In shamanism, fire is the element that can transmute and transform all energies. We gather around the fire in a great big circle. We gaze into the flames. We look at the beauty of our circle, the light shining out of each person's eyes as we connect together in the beauty of nature, in sacred space together, outside of time, in the unseen realms together. As we gaze at each other and also up at the beauty of the sky that's forming as the time of day is changing from day into night. We look around at the beauty of this place in awe and wonder. We smell the air and feel the connection of our feet on the earth. We feel our hearts embracing each other as we support each other in this ceremonial work to make our wishes and our dreams so. And so as we stand around the fire, you will notice that there are bowls with beautiful colored ribbons of very vibrant colors. And there are also bowls of sticks. Bend down, pick up a stick that's calling to you. Pick up a color of ribbon whose vibrancy, whose vibration and frequency is calling to you right now. And maybe there's more than one color that you want to pick up. That's fine. You can pick up one or more ribbons. And as you do this, start to reflect on a dream for yourself and a dream for the planet, for all of life, a prayer for peace, for harmony, for a clean environment, for balance, for healing, for light, for love. What does your soul call for? To blow a wish in. Start as you get your wish to wrap the power of that wish around your stick, making a power object that will embrace the full power of your dream. This is the talisman that holds the energy, the vibration of your dream. So focus on your dream as you wind it into the stick. Hold the stick with your eyes closed. Blow a prayer into it. And when you feel ready, walk up to the fire and offer your dream to the fire, who's waiting to carry the intention up to the creative forces of the universe. And as you do this, you will notice there's a bowl of offerings of sacred herbs. You can feed the fire with some of these sacred herbs in gratitude for its willingness to work with you in partnership. And as you're done, come back into the circle. Let's take a couple of minutes in silence to gaze at the beauty of the fire. Shamans have gathered around the fire since its beginning to receive messages, to get guidance, to get omens. So as we gaze upon the fire, ask the fire if it has a message for you at this time. And now let's all hold hands together and gaze at the fire, the beauty of the sky, the beauty of the light shining through each of us in the circle. And with our hearts, we put out a prayer that each person's dream be held in love by the power of the universe and be manifest into form in the right time, in the right way. We always have to surrender the outcome in this work. And we drop hands and we bow to each other and to the fire. And we start our journey back from this place. And we turn around. We say goodbye to the guardian spirits who welcomed us. They will be taking care of the fire. And we start to walk down the path of nature. I'm walking and you start to step back through the veil, back into the meeting space, back into your seat. Feeling yourself grounded with deep, deep roots connecting you to the earth. You're fully back. You're feeling fully present. We thank the helping spirits who were with us on this journey. We thank the power of the universe for accepting our dreams. So welcome back, everybody. I thought in the time that we have left that I'd share a little bit about how you can work with some of what we just did. And again, I can encourage you, if you feel drawn to explore the path of shamanic journeying. But ceremonial work is something that you can do without needing to learn the whole tradition or the core practices of shamanic journeying, because you can work with the spirits of the elements. You could work with fire where you live, if you can build a fire. You could work with the power of earth. You can work with the wind. You can work with water. You can build a little fire and make a little talisman, as we did in this journey, or write down on a piece of paper something that you're ready to release in your life, and ask the fire to release that. Or you can do what we did here of asking to manifest a dream. Or you can blow something you want to release into a stone that volunteers itself to you, and to bury it into the earth, asking that the energy be transformed so that you're not blowing a wound that you're releasing into the earth, but you're blowing light and love into the earth. Or you can blow in a wish. A practice that I have people do is to get bubbles from a toy store and blow wishes of prayers into the air, asking that the air carry them and flood our collective with light. You can build a little ship out of objects that you find in nature, and you can set the little ship off into a body of water, carrying a dream or something that you're releasing, asking again that the energy be transformed into light. And so shamanism is not just about journeying. Shamanism is about a way of life. And in traditional cultures, children were taught immediately, as I started this session, what the gift, the talent, the strength was that they were bringing to the community that would help the community be strong and thrive. They were taught about the power of words and how our words carry a vibration, and that vibration goes up into the universe and manifests back as form. And a journey that I've been having people do, and this is an experience you can do with some music, it doesn't have to be a journey, or sitting out in nature, is to say some words and to go through your body and notice how the vibration affects your liver and your kidneys and your heart and different parts of your body, and to understand that these words are having the same impact on the entire web of life, which we're all connected to because we're one organism. The power of our words is huge for creating the life that we want to live. And children are also taught how to focus their thoughts. Thoughts are things. And that, yes, we are here to express, we're humans, we're here to express our joy and our bliss and our frustration and our anger and our hate. We're here to express it all. But what we want to do, what's taught in shamanism, is express in a healthy way, and then with intention to transform, transmute the energy behind your thoughts so that you're radiating and sending love and light out into the collective, into yourself, because there's only oneness. So everything that you're sending out into the collective, you're sending to yourself too. And children were taught how to dream, that our daydreams build an invisible substance of reality that replaces the fabric of reality as it's dissolving. And so the importance of daydreaming was taught. And these are practices that we can bring into our everyday life with discipline of how we work with the words that we use and how we work with our thoughts and what is our train of thought, where is our thoughts leading us to, and do we have to reframe them to create a different outcome? And from a shamanic point of view, we're dreaming the wrong dream. And it's up to us as a collective to step into our destiny, to be a dreamer, and to use our imagination. We use our imagination through our daydreams. Second to second, we're always daydreaming about something. And if you look at our lives and the world that we're living in, it's no wonder if we examine our daydreams to see what we're experiencing in the world today. And so to start to learn how to focus our daydreams on what we want the goodness of life to look like, not the nightmare, but what's the goodness of life. And so besides journeying, I've shared with you some ceremonial work that you can do with just putting on some nice music. You can do while you're sitting in nature. You can do while you're drumming or rattling, using the elements to do some releasing ceremonies or some calling in of blessing ceremonies. It's just a small example in the very, very short time that we've had together. And the practices of starting to live a more disciplined shamanic way of life, of bringing in gratitude on a daily basis and watching the vibration of the words and how you're impacting your own life and the collective, and starting to work with focusing your thoughts and focusing on your daydreams of what you want to see instead of what you don't want to see. These are 3 practices that in our short time I've given you that are going to be very transformative in your life if you choose to continue them. And so it's really been a blessing for me to be able to work with you today. I wish I could physically be there in Findhorn. It's one of my favorite places on earth, but you have the great opportunity to be on the land and say hi to it for me. I've said hello to it in a journey. That's another power of journeying, is we can journey through time and space and travel to different places and continue to speak to the land. And so I hope that you will deepen your connection to the land while you're there and start to speak to the spirits in all things and practice deep listening and receiving some omens. And again, from a shamanic point of view, as we bring more harmony into our relationship with the land, we'll start to see more harmony return to the planet again. So I want to send you all many blessings, and I want to thank you for participating in this session today. And I want to wish you a very rich rest of your conference.